Hello guys, what's up? This is Mortaza. Welcome to the second episode of this series about object-oriented programming in C# here in Visual Studio 2022, which, as I told you, we're gonna spend most of our time. I have already created a new solution and a project. I'm gonna call this project episode number 2, and I'm gonna put all these projects for you guys so you can use them and use the codes that we're gonna write. Anyways, in this episode I'm gonna talk about a very important concept, and I think in the upcoming videos we're gonna continue talking about these as well. And the concept that I want to talk about in this episode is classes versus objects, which is very important to understand, which is very important to differentiate. You're gonna have to make a distinction between classes and objects, because I think this is the most important concept that you're gonna encounter when studying object-oriented programming. And unfortunately, some programmers are not aware of the differences. Let me give you an example. When you create a new project in Visual Studio, the first thing that you probably notice is that here you've got a class called console, and you've got a method, line, and which helps you to write something to the output. This is the argument, the value that we provide, so that this method can consume this value and do something. So this is the class, the method, and so on. Now suppose I myself want to create a class to kind of hold the information about, for example, dogs. So what I can do is to just right click on my project and add a new class. I'm going to call this class, let's say, dog, with uppercase. And I'm going to make this class public. And for a dog class, we're going to have different methods and different, properties. Please watch my series on C# so that you understand the different meanings of, properties and methods and so on. So what I am going to do is to say, okay, for a dog, I will probably need to store the color of a dog. So I'm going to say, I don't know, I'm having a string of color, probably. And the breed, the race is also very important. So I'm going to say string race. And there are also some, methods, some functions, behaviors that a dog can have. For example, a dog can walk. So I'm going to say method, and I'm going to say this is the walk method. By the way, that was just, a code snippet that I have created for myself, which helps me create a method quickly. I'm gonna probably post a video on my YouTube channel about how to create these code snippets. Anyways, I'm gonna have another method, let's say bark, and then in these methods I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna stay very simple, and I'm gonna just in the console, I'm going to say invoking walk behavior or method, doesn't matter. And here I'm going to say invoking the bark method, So this is a class called dog, with different properties so that we can store the different values for the different characteristics of a dog. And a dog can also have some behaviors, some functionalities, some methods. So I have implemented 2 methods, walk, and bark. A class is like a definition, it's like a blueprint of a house, it's like a template, You define it once, You define it once, and then you can create different objects of a class, or as they are sometimes called, different instances of a class. And the process of creating an instance of a class is most often called instantiation, or to instantiate a class. It means to create an instance of a class. So I can go to program.cs and I can say, okay, I have a dog class, and right now I want to create an instance of this dog class. I'm gonna create a new variable. I'm gonna call it dog, I don't know, number 1, for example, right? And I'm gonna say this is a new dog, and of course I need to import the using statement, right? And for this dog class, for this object, dog number 1, which is very vague, I might as well come up with a better name. I can store different values. For example, as you probably know, you can use the dot notation to access the properties and the methods. So dog number 1, the color, it's going to be yellow. And dog number 1, the race will be, I don't know, like shepherd. And then I can say, okay, for dog number 1, I want to walk now, right? And I can, run my program. And in the output, I can, see invoking walk method. And I can also come here and say, okay, in the console, let me print dog number 1 dot color and dog number 1 dot race, right? So, race. This is an instance of the dog class. So I have created the dog class like a template, like a definition, a blueprint of a house once, and then I can create many objects, many instances of this class. And these objects are isolated from one another. So for example, I can come here and I say, okay, I need another dog, dog number 2, and for this dog number 2, I'm gonna say color is let's say black, right? How about a black dog? And then I'm gonna console write line dog number 2 color. So the value that we store, in the property, in this color property, is independent of the value that we store in the color property of dog number 1. So if I run the console, run my application, first I see the color yellow, the race of the first instance shepherd, and then the color of the second instance. So I think what I'm trying to say is that you need to be aware of the difference between the concept of a class and the concept of objects. So you declare a class, you define a class like a template, and then you can have many instances, many objects of that class. And these objects, of course, they can have, we will talk about that. They can have some common functionalities, but more often than not, they are independent from one another. So whatever we store in for example, the color property or the race property of the first dog is totally independent from the value that we store in the property of this second dog. That's all I wanted to tell you about the difference between the concept of a class and the concept of an instance or an object. I think it is very important to understand these differences up front. We're going to talk about them, and this is kind of like a foundation on which we're going to build the concepts that we will talk about in the upcoming videos. So I think watching this video a couple of times would be very beneficial if you feel that you haven't totally understand what we talked about here. But stay tuned because in the upcoming videos we're going to talk about different concepts, important concepts in the object-oriented programming before we get down to the coding. But as you saw here, we talked about coding as well. Anyway, guys, if you've enjoyed watching this video, you can share it with a friend who is trying to learn OOP in C#. If you have anything to say, I'd be more than happy to get into a discussion. Just leave a comment in the comment section. And if you haven't already subscribed to A Coder's Journey, please do and activate that notification bell so that whenever I release a new video, you get access to that video instantly and can watch it. Thank you so much. Stick around. I'll catch you in the next episode. Till later. Bye-bye.